Yeah. Man, this life insane. Got some money, but I always stay the same. But I never fuck with y'all, you niggas lame. If you making moves, you know it's love with me. Yeah, thought that I would change. See, that negativity is not the way. Seen you niggas try to go and run my place, but it'll never ever lead you to my place. Yeah, thought that I would change. Got some money, but I always stay the same. But I never fuck with y'all, you niggas lame. Chasing the billy, if I'm in your city, I gotta get paid for the show. Here for a minute, get litty, sip Henny, then I hop right back on the road. This love was nothing, I can't even focus if it don't do shit for my goals. When niggas was gone, I turned to the mold and got us up out of the hole. Look at them dipping and slide. I got them all alive. You see the smile on my face? The merch is sold out for a while. It ain't a nigga out here in the scene like me that could tell you the truth. Took a few grams, got out the jam, and say, man, do what you do. Yeah. Got some money, but I always stay the same. But I never fuck with y'all, you niggas lame. Yeah.
Hey, Black Child, what's up? I'm just calling to let you know that I'm happy and I'm proud of what you're doing. You know I'm always going to be your number one fan. As I always say, you can do it. There's no such thing as can't, because you could. But anyway, I'm just letting you know, when you come out, I want you to play my number one song, Shorty. You know I can't sing like you can, but I'm letting people know how you do. Later, love you. Peace out.
I would change. Thought that I would change. Yeah. Thought that I would change.
Airplane.
Welcome everybody to another Science Time with Cliff. I am your host with the most from the East Coast, and as always, folks, I am in airplane mode. Got a great show lined up for you right now with my main man Cliff. There's something I want to show people real quick. Give me one sec. Let me pull this up because it's in my email address and I don't want to put my email on the screen. Derek. Boom. Find out more. It's too
terrifying.
All right. So just a quick announcement. Let me go back to main. All right. Cliff can't see my screen. The one in front of me. All right. I think I am presenting on Sunday evening at this conference. I just got added to it. It's the virtual conference on atheism, March 4th through the 5th. That's this weekend. But I'm really excited about y'all. It's an international e-conference on atheism. Hear from the world's leading scholars, apparently including me. But look, they did all this. I just got added, so they didn't add me to the program and all of that, which I don't care. But y'all can see, man, it's heavy hitters on here. Terry Daniel, Derek Lambert, Derek Bennett, Richard Carrier, John Verner, David Fitzgerald, Shane, I don't know that, Shane Almgren, Matthew Clemens, David Kyle Johnson, David Eller, Kaylee Bradley, Jeremy Schumacher, Darren Slade. This is the guy who's organizing it, actually. Shauna Peters, Tori Cotton. So it's a bunch of it's probably some names y'all know and some names y'all don't. But this is big for me to just actually get out here because just like on the evolutionary biology side of things, we write papers, we go to conferences. And believe it or not, I think, Mike Travisano, my research advisor in the program I'm in, they're excited that I do this type of work. So to really start to, y'all know, get out here on the conference scene, that's one of the key ways to grow the channel. So I'm excited about that. Absolutely. And also, I'll share the link with y'all if you ask that way. Y'all can sign up if you want to attend the conference and actually see those presentations this weekend. But I'll say more about that a little bit later on. Right now, we're going to talk about Cliff's debates and my feedback on that. But Cliff, before we jump into that, I did not watch Rebecca Davis versus Sal on Modern Day Debate. You watched some of it. I will probably watch it. I'll probably watch it.
It was very technical. They were talking about basically Sal. I mean, my understanding is Sal is a chemist or a biologist. He's all about these. He likes to touch people with his zinc fingers or something.
Yes. Now, to be honest with you, Sal also, he puts himself in the midst of what we would consider it the legitimate scholastic creationist versus evolution debate. So he claims people like Michael Behe and William Dembski. Now, I don't know if they would claim him or if they even know he exists.
I just don't know why a guy who's a biologist or a chemist is going on about Big Bang Theory and background radiation. Like, it just seems like this is some real hard evidence that these guys they have an agenda. They're going to go for that agenda. That's their whole thing. And, come on, prove me wrong.
Yeah, no, I
made that up because it came up yesterday.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
Okay.
In my discussion with Finding Truth.
So yeah, I should check out Sal and Rebecca's debate. We should debate them.
Painful. It was
painful. It was painful?
Literally all that they were doing was just going, yeah, but there's this paper and it shows some shade. It throws some shade on what's generally accepted. And also we don't know. And you don't know. You don't know. It could be that we're wrong. Like, you have to acknowledge that it could be that we're wrong, right? You don't know. And it's just like, oh God, just yeah, we know.
All right, well, give me your commentary a bit on the meta, because this is something I say a lot. Like, every time I'm talking to another scholar, Cliff, what I tell them is very simple. There are actually certain subjects out in this field that are relevant to these types of discussions when it comes to atheism, religion, whatever, the great debate, right? And we know what they are. There's geology, there's New Testament scholarship, Old Testament scholarship, all the languages, the cultural history of the Near Eastern, ancient Levant, whatever, right? And every time those people's subjects come up, it's some religious fundamentalist or apologist debating them. And who's on their side? Some actual scholar from the field. It's a historian that shows up to debate the historicity of blah, blah, blah. It's a New Testament scholar that shows up to debate the New Testament. It's an Old Testament scholar that shows up to debate the Old Testament. But what people probably saw yesterday, especially if they caught your debate, and then The one later is the difference when an actual evolutionary biologist shows up to debate a creationist versus what we normally see, which is creationist versus atheist. And the debate is not creationist versus atheist because atheists are not evolutionary biologists.
Right. No, I think my understanding about the debate last night was that there were two amateur. I don't know what their research interests were. They seemed like two younger guys.
Leo's a real deep philosophy dude. We know him pretty well. Like he interacts in a lot of our channels. He's great, but he's very deep in the philosophy, and it could be problematic because he's not. He wouldn't claim that that's his area.
Feel like a discussion between scientists about science, which is what it should be. If you're going to do that, right? If you're going to be pulling out the papers and going, oh, well, this guy said this. Well, yeah, then everyone at the table should understand it. And it may not be the case that everyone watching it can understand it, right? I mean, this is sort of I don't know. It's problematic. So
appreciate the chat for chiming in. Nitty said it was nearly you weren't there level of shit that they were trying to pull with Leo. So yeah, we'll check it out and see how it goes. I'm known for responding to content. I
watched it maybe for 20 minutes and I just was like, it's just going around in circles. I don't feel the need to watch more of this.
Can you speak to what you feel atheists maybe do wrong in these debates?
Well, I think that we've talked about it before, but there's this notion that somebody can say something patently stupid in 2 minutes. Somebody could just spout a bunch of crap that's completely patently stupid, and it takes an hour to unpack what they just said because there's intuition and it's a lot of times it's very nuanced. The points that are being made are very nuanced, and so you're like, all right, we have to we have to unpack now what you just said, and that's a damn problem. This is a big problem. How much we're gonna have to unpack this, and this is kind of like, for the love of God, like why? And sometimes I hate it. Like someone will say something, and I'm like, why did you have to say that? Like now, and in fact, this happened in the debate yesterday afternoon. There were a couple of things he said, and I was like, well, now we can't end right here.
Yes.
We can't be over right now. We got to keep going because you just said that, and you just put a burden on me, and I'm not willing to take that. And I have to explain to you now why I'm not willing.
Yes. Now let's segue actually into the debate you did. I appreciate because it was one of them days, I guess. But I want to say off the top, Cliff, I was actually, and I think you need to hear this, but Cliff, I was actually really proud. I was really proud of you. I thought you did.
It's so unfortunate because he decided at the end to put in a bit from there was some footage from
that was a rookie mistake. Cliff, I was back. I had to pull my stream.
Do you know why? I think I know why he did it. Why he did it was because he thought at the end of this whole discussion, I'm going to stick it to him. I'm going to show the viewers how complicated this behavior is, how smart these critters are. And it's like, dude, it doesn't matter. You're not making either you're right or you're wrong. You're not making your point. You're doing some kind of emotional appeal.
That's what it said. It felt like an emotional, like a churchy thing, right? Like let's pull on your heartstrings type of deal.
No, because he was sitting there with like this shit-eating grin on his face, like, I see. Now we talked about it, but now when people see it,
now when they see these beavers building dams. No, get me wrong, the beavers were very impressive, man.
Said it's fascinating. It's phenomenal. It's amazing. It's astounding that it happened. But we have a mechanism to explain it. I'm sorry, but we have a mechanism to explain it.
Yes, YouTube punk. It was.
Look at the trees.
Instead, it was look at the beavers. That's exactly. It's totally look at the beavers.
The birds, how the birds on night, how to migrate. I didn't even get to a point. He talks about how the birds know how to migrate. They know how to go to Morocco, right? There's a certain species of bird. They know how to go to Morocco. Yeah, you know what they don't know how to do? Go anywhere else. They don't know how to go anywhere else. want you to go to Cairo. They can't get to Cairo. You tell them I want you to go to Johannesburg. They can't get to Johannesburg. They're hardwired to go to Morocco. That's all that they can do. So
That's hilarious.
Those guys, they can go to Johannesburg, but ask them to go to Morocco. This is like one destination airlines. I mean, it's great for fitness. Big teeth and big tails. That's what they got.
So let me talk about a couple of things I think you did really well that we don't often see. So one, it was a total game changer because it wasn't creationist versus atheist. It was creationist versus evolutionary biologist. And one thing I realized is they're not ready. They're not ready.
He wanted to turn it so badly into atheist.
Yeah.
Because at the end, I mean, go ahead and say your bit, but we got to talk about what he did at the end. That was really
sure. But no, so I just want to highlight some things you did really well because I think to me it really spoke to the difference because you were like, no, this is my field, no, this is what I do for a living, and it takes on a different if people watch the Gustick Gibbon video that you made about me. There's a reason why those guys look so absurd. Anybody else sitting in my position could have literally argued the same exact thing I was saying, and they would have been right or wrong just on the merit of what was said. But this fact that when it's actually your work and your profession, that they have to pretend that you don't understand your own work, it adds a level of sort of interpersonal insult to the whole thing that I think anybody watching really notices. Because it's one thing to chit chat around, you're watching the game with your friends, you start talking about cars and what's the most efficient engine, and you're just a bunch of bros sitting around rambling about cars. But as soon as the Audi and Mercedes engineers are in the fucking room and they're talking about cars, and you're gonna act like they don't know what they're talking about, maybe they don't, but you're kind of looking like a jackass at this point, especially if you can't bring anything to demonstrate that they don't know what they're talking about. If essentially all you've got is I don't believe you, I don't believe you, well, it couldn't be, this is impossible, all of that type of shit. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. I want to respond to that in two ways, though. I think that for a lot of these people, like I give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, I mean, I think that they're completely wrong, but I give them the benefit of the doubt that they.
Listen to me. I'm sick of it. I'm taking the gloves off.
What are you doing? What was that?
So it's just a sound effect. Man, take the gloves off, Cliff. Let us know what's going on.
No. It's not that. It's the opposite. What I'm trying to say is, I think that they're coming from an honest place themselves. I mean, they may be, if anything, they're. Oh, I see. Redeemed gloves. I got it. They're drinking their own Kool-Aid, right? They're buying what they're picking up what they're putting down. They're buying their own line of bullshit, and so you have to kind of look at them and I mean, part of it is you want to look at them and go, do you believe half the shit you're saying? Do you actually believe this? Like, I mean, come on, get off it. But the reality is they do. That's the problem. So you have to realize this is who I'm arguing with. I'm arguing with someone who actually really believes it. And from their standpoint, if you go and say, look, your book, it has no basis, there's no basis to believe it, or your preacher, your imam, your whatever, said X, Y, and Z, and clearly they don't know what the hell they're talking about, that's insulting to them. Whether it's reasonable or not for them to be insulted by that, whether they're right or wrong, it doesn't change it. It's the truth of the matter. It's where they're coming from. And so, I'm talking with this guy yesterday, and I do not for a minute believe that this is any kind of act or that anything he's saying he doesn't absolutely believe in. I do believe that he's not applying critical thought.
Wow.
I think it's just a lack of ability to apply any critical thought to what he's saying
Right.
And then he's trying to come up with these excuses. So like later in the debate, at some point he kept going back to this idea that I was proposing that agents learn things during their lifetime, which then get passed on to their offspring. And I was like, no, behavior can be encoded in the genome, which means that a sperm or egg can be mutated, and then the offspring, every one of their cells will have that mutation. And if that changes the way that the brain is built, then that can change behavior. And he just kept going back to, yeah, but you know that you can't inherit something you learn in life. Every time you're born, you have to start from scratch. And I said, no, you can inherit behavior. And then it finally came up that like, he's like, no, but you can't inherit behavior. When you start, your brain can only have white noise. And I said, look, what you're saying is patently wrong. I evolve, like my research, I evolve cognitive architectures that interact with environments and perform behaviors. And he goes, oh, but then you have an objective fitness function. I said, not always. Sometimes those individuals, right, the fitness function is such that if they collect enough resource, they produce an offspring. I'm not lining them up and selecting parents like you would using an objective function. This is a explicit fitness function. It's an implicit. I always get explicit and implicit.
Yeah, implicit. Yeah.
But it's an implicit fitness function, and it's just a matter that, you know, it is doing what it's doing. So then from there he went to, oh, but it's not the real world, right? It's not real matter. It's not real what. And it's like, dude, I hate to tell you this, but the universe is made of matter as far as we can tell. Everything that we see happening is based in matter. There's a limited amount of the matter in the universe. We're pretty sure that there's a finite amount of matter and energy in the universe, if you take it as a total. We also, we don't know if the ways in which matter can interact and the emergent properties that can be derived from matter is limited. But we know that because we keep finding, we keep smushing atomic particles together and getting new isotopes or getting new molecules, these giant molecules. But one of the issues is that those molecules are not stable. You don't see them occurring in nature. And so we do know that there's the stuff on the periodic table and the ways that the stuff in the periodic table can interact. And that's actually quite finite. So there's a finite set of rules acting on a finite amount of matter. That's what we have in the universe.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So when I build my digital simulation, I am laying out effectively. Actually, I have unlimited matter in my simulations. I can make as much matter as I want because it's simulated matter. But there are rules, and I can make a simulation with finite matter if I wanted to. It's not critical. But the fact is that there's rules. The important part of it is not the actual rules. It's that there are rules, and therefore natural selection can find ways to play and win the game. Right. That's what it is. There's a game. The game is producing more offspring, and as long as your environment has some stability to it, you can do natural evolution. That's it. So and I tried to explain that, and he just would not accept it. And at the end, what he did as a sort of a last ditch effort to try to resurrect something was to bring up the fact. He said, "Well, what would convince you?" And I brought up, it's a very Dillahunty answer, but it's I don't know what would convince me. Because anything that could convince me could also fool me. And he did a big, threw his arms up and did a big thing about how, so nothing would convince you. I said, no, I didn't say that. I said, I don't know what would convince me. Right. I don't see any reason why I should not be skeptical about any argument, except I do know one thing that could convince me. Clearly, it's God. Because if God is real and God is all powerful, then God could just, first of all, he could go on my head and just convince me whether or not he's true, right? Something powerful enough could do that. Right. I do know, but even beyond that, it's just, God would know the thing that would convince me. So fine, if he wants to do it, he can do it. Which I'm not the first person to say.
So, yeah, there was a lot there. And I have questions, but before I do, I want to ask you Vegetative States questions. Vegetative State said, Cliff, you won the guy over by respecting him as a human while dominating him with the explanations you chose. Do you think he felt he won? Did he say anything about it to you after? Vegetative, I just think that's a fantastic question.
So I told him before we started, I said, you're not going to catch me making any points I can't defend. The only points that I'm going to make that I'm going to stand behind, that I'm not going to caveat, are things that are the results of my research. And I was very careful that when he asked me things that were outside of my direct research, that I caveated the heck out of them. I said, it could be like this. It might be like this. I don't know. And I was fully willing to acknowledge what I don't know. I think if there's one mistake that atheists make when they're in these debates, is they take on burdens of proof where they don't need to. And I won't do that. So, if there are people who want to say God doesn't exist, I think that there's good reason to think God doesn't exist. I personally, I don't think it's likely that God exists based on what I've seen, not any particular God. But that by no means, I also, I don't think it's likely that, I don't think it's likely that the sun has gone out in the last 8 minutes. And that, we just have to wait 5 more minutes and then the sky's going to go black and we're going to be in deep trouble. I don't think that's the case. I don't know. Maybe the sun disappeared 5 minutes ago. We just have to wait, 3 more minutes for the light, for the darkness to get to us. But that it's the same thing. Like, I don't believe it because there isn't evidence. And I made that point. So I agree. I think I was trying to be respectful.
You were respectful.
One of the things, though, was I went into that. I thought we were going to have more of a discussion. I wasn't really prepared with an opening statement. I kind of jotted notes down as we were starting.
See. Yes, that makes sense. Makes sense.
I thought we were just going to chat about it because basically he, at some point in his, I wasn't careful. I made a comment on the YouTube video he had with Matt, and in the comment I said, "Look, I work in information theory and evolution, and you're completely wrong." That was my comment. That got us chatting.
Right.
And he responded to that as though I was saying he was wrong in the whole thing. What I actually meant was there was one moment where he said, if you talk to anyone who studies information theory, they're going to agree with me. And my feeling at that moment was like, no, they're not, because I do, and I don't agree with you. Right? I study information theory.
Yeah,
and do not agree with you. So, no, just that's it. You just took on a burden of proof, and you cannot defend it because I exist.
Right.
And that specifically was what I was responding to. I should have said, you said anyone who works in information theory would agree with you. I work in information theory. I do not agree with you. You're wrong on that specific point. But maybe it's good that I didn't because,
Right, it just turned into a broader debate about the topic. Let me just touch on a couple things that I think are important to point out, especially for the audience. I mentioned that he was sort of in the ring with the professional and not ready for that, right? So one, it made him look really weak because he really wasn't courteous to you in an intellectual sense, right? Like, there's this thing where they have to not listen, right? And it came out in a way that you normally don't see in these type of debates. And I thought that was fantastic. But what I loved was that you broke it down and you explained it to him. You explained it almost like an elevator pitch style, or the way you would introduce the topic to a student. And so it was more than just saying, bro, shut the fuck up, this is what I do for a living. You were like, bro, shut the fuck up, this is what I do for a living. And let me remind you that I'm very capable of teaching you right now exactly how this works. And then you kept coming back to it. Like, because he would try to slip in this is still impossible and this doesn't work. And you were like, nope. We're going to come back to this. And here's what happens in the system. I was like so happy about that, because normally people refuse to do that. No, that was
I wouldn't let that go.
That was a qualitative step up
I
from what we see.
I didn't see a way that I couldn't do it. I had to do it.
Yeah, and that was great.
You're putting words in my mouth, because he kind of wanted to end the debate, and I was like, no, you just put words in my mouth. We're not done. And I was late to dinner because I didn't.
Oh, because you didn't want to. Yeah. Well, I was late to
part
meet
of that was
him.
because he played that 15-minute video.
That was another thing. So the tactic. I noticed that tactic too, where it is his channel, and it's a difficult thing when you're on somebody else's channel. But he kept trying to give himself the last word, which is a red flag right there. You know, somebody's got to have it in a debate, but it'd be nice for you to give it to your guest if that's reasonable or whatever.
Were you there at the very end after we came back?
Yes, yeah, I came back to watch that. Yeah, I missed the first couple minute or so about that, but I watched pretty much the whole thing.
I said, look, I accept that you don't agree.
You
and
did.
That you're skeptical, and I appreciate that you're skeptical. Like I'm not, skeptical about the things I'm saying, because it's not just my experience. I have the research. It's my research. But what you can't do is say that you have demonstrated, or that it is clearly not the case, because it's not clearly not the case. There are two people discussing this, and one person thinks it is the case, and one person thinks it is not the case.
Right.
And so you can say, look, I have laid out an argument like this, and you don't agree. Okay, that you can do. You can say, I'm not convinced by the argument. That you can do. What you cannot do is say, I have clearly demonstrated this. No, you cannot. And that was sort of where I was putting my foot down, saying, no, you can't do that. That's not, we're not going to be done if you do that.
Yes. And he kept trying to do that, right? He kept trying to give himself the last word so he could at last minute get away with some rhetorical hand waving. And you refused to let him do that. And I actually thought that was a really good stand. So yeah, I have a new perspective on these conversations. One is I've had more of them myself, and so it's not as easy as it looks on TV. I could say that. But I also think we do this really negative thing in this community, which is we watch atheists versus Christians or whoever debate, and then we're not satisfied with the creationist response, or we think we'd have done things differently, and then we tear down the atheist like somehow the Christians did a better job. And normally it's like we're criticizing our side, quote unquote, for not responding to their tactics well, rather than critiquing them for using their tactics, right? So I don't want to do that. I really don't. Because I really try to just sit here and just listen to how you presented your stuff versus how he presented his stuff. And I thought I really did think you did a great job. And I think he looked very silly. He looked his cognitive dissonance was very clear. And so I think you then had that tact of, I'm not going to let you get away with anything, but I'm not going to be cruel to you on an interpersonal level. Now, what would be interesting, and I kind of think it was smart on your behalf to not go there, but I imagine there are some people, like let's take a Shannon Q. Not that she watches, but Stephanie Helm, some other people in our audience have shown me some of her stuff. For instance, like her debate versus Darth Dawkins. And so one of the things that Shannon Q does
that was amazing, by the way.
Oh, you saw that? You've seen it too. Okay.
That was one of the people who actually handled him in a reasonable way. And it was also, I think for me, that may have been one of the I watched a lot of Darth Dawkins because I was trying to figure out what the hell is it's his rhetoric. It's the way that he speaks is more important than what he's saying, actually. It's literally it's his mode of speech. And
yes,
he dismantled it, and it was one of the things where you're like, oh, okay, now I can start to see the structure that's under. It's like if you have like a wing on a plane and there's fabric over the wing, and you're like, but what's under it? Like, how is this thing built? And she just dismantled it, and you're like, oh, there are the struts. That's what's holding it up. It's empty. This is all empty.
Right. Yeah. So that was the thing, right? And I'm just thinking about this now. I didn't think about this when I watched it, but I guess maybe you could have.
I'm saying, sorry, James. I'm saying that Shannon, when she was
Shannon Q,
when she was had a discussion with Darth Dawkins, she just dismantled what he was doing. She literally was like doing a psychoanalysis of his approach to debate while they were debating, and it was pissing Darth off insane. Like, it was awesome. It was really cool.
So the comment I was going to make, Cliff, is I guess, and it's something I'm thinking about myself. There's a way in which we could shift some of these conversations to discussing the meta, right? Like you could have discussed some of his tactics in real time, but I think that would have been super risky. I think what you did instead was you dealt with the substance of what he was mentioning in a way that didn't allow the tactic to work. Like it diffused the bomb without calling him a terrorist for planting it. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? So, but that's something I'm interested in now. When I'm seeing these conversations, I'm like, man, not a lot of us are yet comfortable doing what Shannon Q does. So you didn't call out what he was doing. You just dealt with what he was saying.
The only thing I called out, I think there were two things. One is I said, look, you're trying to put you're trying to put words in my mouth. You're trying to say, I mean, literally, when he kept saying, you're saying that offspring are inheriting things learned by their parents. And I had to be like, okay, you're straw manning me at this point. Like you're full on straw manning me. I don't think I used the word straw man, but I said, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that a mutation occurs, which is inherited, in the sperm, which is then inherited by the offspring. And then that goes into every cell of the offspring and it changes the behavior. And look, if you don't believe that behavior can be determined by genetics, that's fine, right? Like that's not what we're litigating right now. What we're litigating is the mechanism by which it would happen.
Right.
Right. And you're saying that it can't happen. Well, okay, but the question is not whether mutations can cause change and those mutations can be inherited. You're basically claiming that can't happen. What you're saying is, I don't believe that genetics can result in behavior. And that's fine. We can do that too. Except my research clearly shows that genetics can result in behavior.
Yeah, I'm reflecting on, like, for instance, my conversation with Kent Hovind. Now, I definitely recognize shit he did. Like, oh, he's pulling out one of his cards. He's literally doing one of his dumb visualization things or whatever. But I highly doubt if I could have got through that conversation without it turning to a dumpster fire if I did that. Right? And that's what I mean about the Shannon Q thing. Like, she went there with Darth, but boy, it wasn't pretty after that. Right? And that's what I'm saying. So I don't even, and again, you can't do everything in a conversation. And I really think if you would have went to calling him out, it would have gone ugly. So I don't think you should have. Right? I'm just thinking
in a way,
of
she did
maybe
exactly what I
there.
did. Because what she did is she knows psychotherapy. She knows psychology. And so she went into that debate and she played the role that she is an expert at. I went into this debate and I played the role that I am an expert at. And by staying in her lane, what she realized very quickly was that Darth is not interested in a discussion. And Darth is not having a debate. There's nothing you can say to him to move his position. And so what she realized was this really is just about rhetoric and psychology. That's what Darth does. He does rhetoric and psychology. Mm-hmm. And so this is not a debate about anything meaningful. His arguments hold no weight. His arguments are simply metaphysical assertions. That's all he does is metaphysical assertions.
Right.
Literally, my metaphysics is garbage is because of Darth. Like, thank you, Darth. That's from you.
Right.
So, so in a way, you're kind of saying she was off task because she wasn't arguing, but there was nothing to argue with Darth. So the thing to do with Darth was to realize that he's not talking about an argument.
Right.
What he's doing is he's doing rhetoric. And she completely sidestepped it. She said, "Fine, we're not talking about an argument. We're talking about your method of argumentation, and I'm going to psychoanalyze you and show everyone that you're basically just trying to use tricks to bully people into saying something that they don't agree with. And since there's no way to argue against you because you're not making sound arguments, I'm not even going to bother."
Yeah.
With this guy, he was making arguments. It's just that he has this guy from yesterday, his understanding of the way that evolution functions and his understanding of his imagination for what can happen is so limited that I think we really were talking about the topic of evolution. I think that really was the topic of the discussion.
No, I think that's a fair assessment, and I actually would agree with it. What do you feel like after? Because that's the whole thing. And just to say this quickly, because I don't want it to get lost. But Cliff, I honestly, in the moment, I was going off and got it. I was happy. I was like really, really excited. And honestly, I felt like you needed more. You need to do more of this. I was seeing. I know you're not into like having a channel or trying to blow up like that, and I know you don't hang out and you don't just like come to YouTube just to link up with the gang 24/7. But I did really feel an allyship with you in terms of, like I said, the subject, the fact that there's not enough evolutionary biologists out here actually having these conversations, and you just represent. I'll tell you what happened too. I was late to a meeting because I had a 5 o'clock with Rob, the Vita Ed team, and so I'm late as shit, frantic with Rob and Diane Blackwood, the lead developer of Vita Ed, and I just was going on. I was like, look, Cliff did really good. He did really good, and we need more of this. I actually wish they could see it. But yeah, it really spoke to that.
So somebody asked, did I learn anything from this thing? And the interesting thing was that no, I kind of didn't. I went in feeling the same way I went out. What I was curious about, it was pretty much what I expected.
Right.
I thought it was going to be more of a discussion and less of a debate, but fine, whatever. I'm game. I don't care. But I did think that I'm really curious what he got out of it, because I was laying down the damn science.
So
there was stuff I was saying that I think was new to him, and there were perspectives that because he opened by explaining evolution, where he explained the existence of organisms in their current state as though they're engineered. As though there's a problem.
So they have to be engineered.
A solution problem. And my take on it was like, no, you have to think about this in the opposite way. You have to think about this as a method of trial and error, except in standard trial and error, we are actually trying to do smart things. And in evolution, it's just random. It's complete garbage. You just throw shit at the wall.
Right.
And if it sticks, it sticks. And that's it. And that's why you get like crazy, chaotic solutions that, and you get totally unexpected solutions, because no sane person would design it this way.
No one would design a frog because you need a thing to hop across lily pads.
Yeah.
Like it's just not how it works. So part of what frustrated me with him, and I hope people see it, but there was me, like, man, I wanted to be there speaking to some of the meta. So some of the things that really struck me, one, he's not a believer for this reason. And so it really is a problem when you have these conversations, because he's holding on to a commitment to creationism that actually has very little to do with the sufficiency or insufficiency of the evidence of evolution, right? If he was genuinely not, already committed to being a creationist, he would just sit there, listen to you, right? He'd be like, oh man, evolution's good to go. I just had this fantastic conversation with one of the experts and he was telling me all about his cool experiments. Man, you wouldn't believe what they could do these days in the lab. You know what I mean? That's how a normal person responds. So there's sort of a frustration watching that, especially because now's the time, Cliff. It's like with my family, I sometimes wish I didn't have the conversation because now I do feel disrespected because we've had the conversation and I've said it to your face. So now on top of you being ignorant about this, I've tried to intervene and now I really know you won't listen to me. And
right. And I think, that at the very end, he was talking about how he thinks the problem is that I'm coming into this closed-minded because I think it has to be a materialistic solution. And I'm trying to, and that was the most absurd part of the discussion for me. Like that was the absolute most absurd part of the discussion because I'm saying I could be wrong. It could be that there's a supernatural, it could be your God. It could be exactly the way that you say it is. But I have the physical world. It explains, I have mechanisms within the physical world that we observe, that we can measure, that explain what we see. So I don't need to turn to this hypothesis. I don't need to invoke God. I don't need to invoke the supernatural. And the thing is, he's doing the exact, it is so much that it was perfect projection on his part. He is just projecting on me exactly what he's doing, right? He's got a preconceived notion that it has to be this way.
Right. Absolutely.
And so it's got to be this way. And so why do I yes, I'm willing, you bring to me a testable hypothesis and we will test it. And if your testable hypothesis passes the test and my testable hypothesis passes the test, well, then guess what? We have two competing hypotheses and we can't differentiate between the two of them. Fine. But at the moment, there is absolutely no, we have two hypotheses on the table. One of them, there is absolutely no way to test.
Right, absolutely. And, so it would have been nice to talk a little bit more about that, right? Because part of what I call the meta MO or whatever, like what they're all doing, really with all of these conversations, not even just the religious ones, the anti-science, the philosophy, whatever it is they're never making a positive case for their side. They're always trying to tear. So he's literally sitting across from someone who generates evidence of evolution every single day and telling you how insufficient it is. Matter of fact, it's impossible, right? This makes sense. But he's willing to accept his side without any evidence at all. And right. I find that really difficult. And also, I don't know if you felt this in the moment, but I think if you could watch it back at some point, you'll see this. It feels like the same way Rebecca Davis does. He's almost like tuning out when you're making your best points. Like when you really get to your best stuff, his eyes start darting to the chat, or he's looking up off somewhere else, or he's looking at his phone. Oh, now all of a sudden he got oh, man, what a timing for those tit pics that he just got and had to look at his phone right now. And that shit actually pissed me off because I'm like, this is a problem.
I think there was some of that. There was also one of the things that was somewhat frustrating was some of his questions or responses were they kind of indicated to me that he wasn't listening to the argument as I was stating it, and that just becomes frustrating because it becomes a waste of time. I had to repeat myself a number of times, which was frustrating. Okay, it's complicated topics. Maybe I wasn't clear, but I felt like I was trying to give him my undivided attention. I also understand he's running the stream. He's got stuff going on. So, there's a little bit more overhead doing that.
Right. So you're being charitable about that. Yeah.
I mean, and he's the one who had to watch the chat. So, in case there was questions or whatever.
Right.
So I mean, I get that, and I mostly assumed it was that. He was cogent, but I also thought that he. I think the frustration for me just came from the fact that there were a number of points where he just kind of sidestepped something, or he would throw up like a false. He would throw up sort of like a false, like a red herring distraction. Because at one point he brought up, like when he was talking about the beavers, one of the things he brought up, and I think it's one of the best evidences that the beaver behavior has evolved, was that the beavers have been shown that if you put out a speaker over cement and you play the sound of running water, the beavers will pile up sticks around the speaker.
Right.
If you have a pipe, if you have a thick pipe and you put a clear section of the pipe and it actually has running water in it, and they can see that, but they can't hear it, they don't respond to it. Right. Wow. So they have a sensory bias to the sound of running water. Right. And putting sticks on top of it. And so you say, okay, well, that's one behavior that would get you to dams.
Right.
So there's some conjecture that the reason that they were cutting down trees is because at some point in their historical past, you got to they eat leaves and bark for the most part. I don't think that they eat leaves.
Oh, yeah. So you could just cut them down and get them down to size.
Yeah, exactly. And also you can harvest that stuff and then, get a whole bunch of it. You don't have to. So there were.
Yeah. And so all you got to do is, just so people know, all you got to do is start with, if you've already got teeth capable of eating shit, you already tear down little plants. They're rodents, right? So you already got sharp teeth that can cut down little plants and then strip foliage from them, and then over time you get the ability to fucking go at a tree.
Right, and they're knocking down trees, and sometimes those trees will fall into a stream, and sometimes they'll block up the stream, and they'll cause a little bit of a lake. And then your environment gets cold because of the Pleistocene or whatever the hell it was,
right?
20 million years ago, 50 million. I don't know when the hell. I'm not a historian
right.
I don't do real biology. And the thought was that there was a giant beaver, and there were land-based and aquatic beavers. And the aquatic beavers perhaps did better because the environment within the water when it got cold was more stable. And so now you've got a large rodent that cuts down trees, is aquatic, and so so now it refines. So now it has to evolve behaviors that will refine dam building. Okay.
Right. Which is no more impressive really than nest building at that point, right? They're just little rat birds.
He brought up that thing. And he brought up like the fact that the birds, like they know the right material. And I said,
they don't.
Birds will go out and they'll find straws or pieces of paper. Anything that's kind of the right size and shape, not because they know how to build a nest, right? The current thinking is not that they're going, I got to build a nest. Is this going to be a good material? Let me do some tests. They're compelled when they find something like straw or a plastic straw or shredded newspaper. They're compelled to stuff that into a nest.
Right. The same way your dog will hump a fire hydrant or your leg.
Right. And the fact that they get it wrong sometimes, and that they'll hump a fire hydrant, or that bowerbirds will pick up any blue thing.
Right.
Anything at all. Freaking soda pop top. Right? It's blue. I want it. Right. They have sensory bias to certain things. And that may be a shape, that may be a smell, that may be a sound. It doesn't matter, and then they respond to it because if it's genetically encoded, it has to be relatively simple. And then when you get a suite of all of these behaviors, you can get very complex results.
That's such a great explanation. Couple other things I observed, man, because I was feeling a lot, man. They really motivated some of our research. I gotta say, like Mike's cultural evolution stuff is looking sexy to me too, because what I really realized, that one of the things he really didn't get, is that in our systems, we start from really nothing. We start with these blank tape organisms, and we evolve everything de novo, like crazy. And if people even understood what the power of that really is, it means all of that shit when they say, well, you don't observe it in real time and you can't observe the fossil record and all you do is get against the fossils. This just chucks all that out the window. It's like, bro, no, it started from nothing and then it did this thing. And you know, your organisms are doing all sorts of complex stuff, right? They're learning all sorts of different games.
Well,
they got all sorts of different cognitive architecture. It's wild.
And we're seeing stepping stones. We're seeing points in evolutionary history where there's a fitness gain correlated with a change in behavior.
Yes.
And then they build upon that.
Yes.
Right. You know, and Salmo's whole paper, that the one that he got in behavioral science or whatever, was looking. He did a Vita, and he evolved the task where they have to follow the path following, learn the signals. Yep. So there's a learning component. And he actually, one of the reasons it was such a good paper was he took some single replicates. And he looked at the line of descent on the single replicate, and he identified where fitness gains were, and he identified how they reflected in changes in behavior. And then he showed how it was common to develop a certain pseudo strategy initially, and then build on that, and then build on that, and that there was some commonality. They would go down different roads, they would take different evolutionary paths, but for the most part, there was sort of a preferred evolutionary path. You kind of do this. And once you know how to do this, you can get to here. It acts as a stepping stone. And once you know that, you can get to the final behavior. Right. And so like we're seeing the whole thing of like the accumulation of, that behavior wouldn't have been useful. You know, if think about a fish, and now you think about a creature walking on land, and you say, well, wait a minute. They needed to get legs and breathing at the same time and breathing air at the same time. You say, no, they didn't. Imagine if that fish starts living in shallow water. Okay, so now it's kind of muddy, shallow water. So they start using their fins to move around the bottom, and they start developing them into feet. Right. Okay, so now they're kind of walking around in shallow water. Well, now they could get out of the water. It would be good to breathe air. Yep. And you know what? We see mud skippers. It's exactly what they do. They're that transitional creature, right there.
Oh, yeah. You see semi-aquatic animals, lots of semi-aquatic animals like that. Now, so that... It was a rich comment. It was a real. It's almost a shame his channel seems to have a decent size, but I felt like you guys didn't have a good time slot. I don't know what that was. I was like, man, this is actually the type of thing that
I think he's in Europe,
scheduled in prime time. So it may have been a better hour for him. Okay. And then the thing at the end, and it's funny, you got me thinking about, was that an intentional sabotage? But I don't think so, because he seemed to intend to play that video all along. But that was a real rookie mistake. A real rookie mistake to play that BBC video or whatever.
I think he thought that playing that video was a winning move.
He should have known it was going to get a stream pulled, though.
Just how insane what I'm saying is.
I'm just saying, if he's gotten that many subs, he should have known by now that playing a footage from the BBC is going to get your stream pulled. I don't know how he didn't know that.
Yeah. Also, he wasn't watching the I think he was only watching it through StreamYard or whatever, because it was interesting. It looks like the algorithm identified that he was playing copyrighted material and put the kibosh on it while we were in the middle of the stream.
Yeah. He didn't know
that.
And
then after he stopped it, he let it come back.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how that's supposed to work. So
I was actually really impressed that in real time, like it's not after the fact, it was like in real time they can detect that. Like how much shit are they comparing it to that they can do that? I was kind of blown away.
Yeah, no, it's fast. I pulled mine, got rid of it, but we mostly had more people here watching than there, because I didn't think people were gonna know it was going on. I don't think most of us are subscribed to him. And it wasn't on a channel that's coming up a lot. And then I was like, I don't want to review the whole thing. So I just went, but I ended up deleting it because he put that thing on there. So I just canned it. Yeah, I just canned it. And then watch the second part when it came back.
Right.
But yeah, man, we were happy to support you. I really do hope you decide to do more. I think it definitely helps what we're doing, Cliff. I've realized that, like, it just kind of makes us collaborators in this whole bigger evolution, STEM outreach type stuff. And I think this type of work is real meaningful. And, some of these jobs I've been applying for are, biology education or biology teaching and learning. And I'm actually going to be applying for an NSF fellowship, like a postdoctoral fellowship that's like STEM education related. And, I'm really hoping to convince them that this is, worthwhile stuff for people to be doing. But again, we're kind of creationist worst nightmare. Now, here's some of the outs that they get us, and he tried yesterday, right? Which is they basically are getting you on the you can't observe stuff, you can't really have it going on.
He can't get me on that. He can't get me
right.
on you.
Now, as soon as you come back with that, he gets you on. It's you've programmed it into your simulation type thing.
Yeah, he can try, and I can show him
that we don't. Yeah, they don't realize how ready for that we are. Like literally, we have to deal with that every day. It's the basic thing you have to teach people about digital evolution when you first start trying to explain how it's different from other types of AI, for instance. The other thing is, and this was when he was getting a little bit more desperate, when he finally kind of started to connect the dots, like, holy shit, this guy's system really does show all this. All of a sudden, it became slippery into the argument from, well, Cliff, aren't you the programmer who designed this system? Didn't it come from your external intelligence? And I'm just like, it was even better than that. Oh boy, here we go.
He said, well, there was that, but that was like, no, I did not. I built the system. It has rules. If you want to say that God did it, that's fine. He said, then he went to something really interesting because it was so easy to dismantle. He started talking about the idea that what if I get my agents in my world and they evolve, and now they start to question their reality, and they start to and they don't believe that you exist. And I said, yeah, they shouldn't.
Crazy.
There's no evidence that I exist. If they actually demonstrate that, this world must have been built, but from their perspective, there's no way for them to know that. It's just, here's the rule, here's the world. Here's the rules that the world follows. What am I going to do? Right? Like that's all I can work with. I can't make up an answer because I don't like the answer.
Absolutely.
What am I going to do? And so that was kind of the I said I would expect them not to believe in me. Now that doesn't mean that they're against me. That I actively denounce my existence. Right? That would also be fallacious. They just don't know. They don't know.
Right.
Their simulation.
It'd be equally weird if they assumed that you did exist and that you had decided that there are avidian or maybe organisms that you favor, right? And that you're going to smite the other ones.
He said, well, what if time and time again, they saw you interfering with the simulation and changing things? And there's something I should have said, which was, well, maybe that would give them cause to think that something is up. Unfortunately, for your argument, we don't see that.
Right.
You claim that we do.
Right.
But we don't. And I'm here describing to you how it is that we see what we that we can explain what we see without having to invoke this.
Honestly, the serious shit is, because you hit him. If he really doesn't want to go there, because what happens is when we interfere with the system, and guys, when we say interfere, we just mean things like, how do we simulate seasonal change in digital organisms? You got to get in there and change. You have to change.
That's an interference.
Well, what do you give me? All right, so give me an example of what he thinks is.
We built in seasonal change so that it's constant, that we're not interfering, because that was present.
Right, that's present at the beginning. Okay, what's a interference?
Would be if I was running something, and halfway through the run, I was playing like The Sims, and halfway through the run, I just dropped $1 million on one of the agents. I'm just like, oh, you've got fitness $1 million right now. Like
so just random shit. Okay.
Yeah. Either it's. I mean, if it's completely random, well, then you just say, oh, there's some stochasticity in my world. We have that. Right. Quantum mechanics appears to have stochasticity. Okay, so it's somewhat random. We can live with that because it's very consistently random. Right. But the issue is now if you have these cases where there is a miracle, where suddenly and there's no way to explain it. Right. Then then you're going to try to come up with an explanation. But if you really can't come up with an explanation, then you're kind of in trouble.
Right. Yeah. I guess where I was going is that for the most part, if we do interfere in the system, it produces a material change, and if the organisms therefore respond differently to the interference, it's because there was a change in the material conditions that they detected. Right. Which is exactly what we don't get with God. We don't get a detectable change in the right. We don't get the person who God just dropped a boatload of money on overnight, or God gave magical healing powers to that we can actually observe. And so they keep assuming that there's a puppet master. But again, what kind of fucking puppet master runs a fucking system in a way that no one can detect the puppet master?
And I'll ask you a related question, which is when we do see $1 million drop on someone's lap in the real world, when is it ever not explained? Right? You're like, oh, he won the lottery. God must have been looking out for him. No, he picked numbers.
Right. He won the lottery. We know how that works. Right. He inherited the family business, failed for a while, and then fucking crypto took him to billionaire status. We know exactly where that money came from.
He figured out the formula for synthetic diamonds. Now he's rich. It's never like, oh, what? Where did this come from?
Yeah, man, that's great. What do you feel like? What do you feel like? Maybe you liked what you didn't like, and then what do you feel about going forward and just your personal thoughts on the whole experience?
Yeah. Okay. So personally, I like that we had a civil discourse. I like that I didn't lose my shit at any point. I was really worried that he would just frustrate me. It ends up that this guy and I had an internet sort of a little bit of a flame war, maybe 2 or 3 years ago on a related topic, and I didn't know it was him. But I actually saved the text from it. I have it in a file, and if I ever start getting really deep into an argument, I go look at it and realize it's all stupid. But yeah, he was making similar arguments, and it was just, it's just whatever. But no, I mean, I think I stayed on point. I think I stayed cool, and I think I did what I set it out to do, which was defend my position and not be pushed into making any claims I can't defend.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's all true. Would you talk to him again? And what about just other conversations like this?
I would consider it. I mean, particularly in this case, because I can say, look, we're going to limit the conversation to can evolution account for, like here's a good question, right? Can evolution account for complexity and behavior? Right? Can the evolutionary process get us to from randomness to complexity and behavior? And if you're willing to have that debate and you say, nope, it can't, then I am willing to have that debate. If you want to say, can evolution explain how humans are walking around, then get Gustick Gibbon. If you want to talk about, phylogeny or whatever, then get because that's what he's been spending his time working on. I don't want to legislate those points. I would happily sit on a
panel or something.
Call it at a conference, a panel with those guys, and if questions about general evolution come up, then send them my way.
Sure,
But
sure.
if questions about specific things about hominid evolution or transitional fossils come up, I don't know, and I don't care. I know that it works. I've read every paper I've read confirms that it works. I have yet to read something that doesn't confirm that it works. And so at a little point, I'm like, I'm done. I don't need to do more.
Absolutely. Would you do something like one of these atheist conferences that I'm trying to do here?
Consider it. It'd be fun.
You consider something like that? What about tag team? Me and you versus Rebecca and Sal on modern day debates.
Oh man, you're a not Rebecca and Sal. No, I don't think Rebecca knows anything, and Sal will say whatever. Like Sal is gonna spew so much garbage per like. Look, if Sal wanted to debate the exact point that I want to make, and not freaking rabbit trail down into zinc fingers,
right?
And go, oh, but your thing can't explain this very specific thing, which is new research, and you could literally spend an entire PhD to understand the complex that creates these things, right? Like I dug into it a little bit enough to go, yeah, we've not fully figured it out, but like they're an explainable thing and they're perfectly explained by natural phenomena. Okay, I'm done, right? Like my fellow researchers have done the work for me. I'm good. Just like I did the work for them, Right. This is how this thing works. It went through peer review. It hasn't been refuted. I will look up, refutations of things. If something is crap, people will generally say, "Oh, this is garbage."
Yeah.
So, but I don't want to.
So it's like case by case basis, You got.
Yeah, I don't want to. And the thing, because those people are going to piss me off,
right?
And I'm going to lose my temper, and that's not a good look.
No, 100%. That actually makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, I don't want to keep you, but dude, that was awesome. We'll just touch base next week and keep working on our lit review and paper and stuff. But I figured we're gonna do this week, which I think is really good because I think there was at least a couple people in the chat that we talked to that I think are gonna hopefully come over. And I think all this stuff really does help promote our work, especially because I see a lot of these conversations as advertisements because you don't really have the time to expose people to your stuff. So part of what I think I'm going to be arguing in my grants and my presentations is that's one of the things that the community building really does do is it gives you a much more lengthier period of exposure for people, which actually helps them learn way more, right, than even most of your students do in a semester, right? So, yeah, really interesting. But dude, that was fun stuff, man. I think all of us enjoyed your presentation and your argument. You were really clear, took good notes, and I think all of us hope to see you do more of that.
Yeah, and I hope it gets posted. I really do.
Carrion said, Cliff, you did excellent, in my opinion. Yeah,
Thank
great. You. Yeah, YouTube Punk was there showing love and support. Yeah, it was something we were all excited for. Victory, 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 victory. Hell yeah. Stephanie Helm said, you carried the facts. He stuck to the faith. You did well, Cliff. Yeah, fantastic. Would you want to have conversations? I don't know if they would, but do you think that guy would ever have a conversation where you could kind of flip the script and talk to him? Where does your commitment to creationism come from?
I don't see a lot of value in it because what he's going to say, it's going to be really boring for us. For us, it's going to be boring because what he's going to say is look at the trees. It's going to be some form of look at the trees.
You think he might even just go straight back to the beavers?
Well, he's at the end where I tried to get him to go at the end was at the end of the day, can you literally what I was trying to do at the very end was say, can you accept that I have demonstrated that evolution can get you complexity and that you can embed behaviors, at least simple behaviors, genetically? And then I will accept that you don't accept you. If you can accept that, then I will accept that you do not accept that the complexity required to fly halfway across the world or to build a dam is able to be encoded in a genome. That's too much, right? Because that was effectively his argument. And the thing was, he was even willing to accept that morphology can be encoded in a genome. And if you're willing to accept that morphology can be encoded in a genome,
why can't it be behavior?
So then he's saying, okay, well, not that. Okay, but yes, breathing. Okay, because it's an internal process. So he was drawing a line at if you interact with the outside world, if the behavior has to interact with the outside world and you're responding to it. And so like I tried to bring up a single-celled organism with a chemical network. I said, look, a single-celled organism swims towards sucrose, swims away from acid or heat or whatever the hell it swims away from. So it has a sensory system. It has a notion of space. Right. It's responding to its environment. So it clearly embeds information about its environment that affects its reproductive success. I would not call that, in a way, it's a mind. It's a very simple chemical mind. But it's not a brain. It has no brain. It just has gene regulatory networks.
Right. And that's it.
Chemical responses, gene regulatory networks. It has very simple stuff. And by the way, that level of complexity, that's the level that I'm working at. Like the simplest imaginable life. The computation necessary in the simplest imaginable life is the level that I'm working at.
Right. Which is a plus, because everything you don't need more noise in your system. You need the simplest system to answer the question. That's how science is done.
But for me, yeah. And in a way, it is the case that what I'm doing is really the defeater for the creationist.
Yeah, that's 100% what I felt like. And I also did feel Mike's vibe. So first off, I've been noticing more cultural evolution stuff, but I really did realize, okay, there's almost, and honestly, we can almost start, I hate to say it, Cliff, but we can start on some shit with the beaver problem. Because look, I totally can see your paper in a conference. Yeah, look, these creationists talk about this stupid ass beaver problem. So look, we made the system over here. Let's jump it right into it.
The thing about cultural inheritance is that one of the arguments he was making, and I at one point I pushed back on it. He said, you can't inherit things you've learned. And I'm like, you can't inherit things you've learned genetically, except there are epigenetic effects. First of all, for the first, there are epigenetic effects. So there are certain very limited pathways where the experiences of the parent can reflect on the genomics of the offspring.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's very limited. You're not going to learn how to speak Chinese and then your kid's going to be born knowing how to speak Chinese. That's not a thing.
Right.
Now, it is possible that if you live in a culture where I don't know how much is upbringing and how much is culture or how much is genomics, but I know that there are certain skills that if you don't know them as an adult, like I think with learning Chinese or Thai, one of these where it's there are very subtle differences in sound. English is really easy, right? It's like whatever.
Right.
But you can't hear the difference. And I don't know if some of that is genetically encoded. If some people are musically talented. Is there some genetic encoding for having a better ear? I wouldn't be surprised.
Right.
So, but that would be a mutation. That wouldn't be inherited, a learned thing. But bigger than, a mutation getting inherited, bigger than more, and by bigger, I mean grosser effect.
Right.
Than epigenetics, which is a tiny little sliver of an effect.
Right.
Is this cultural inheritance is once I can communicate.
Yes, learning.
Then I can teach my offspring how to do things. And then, yes, my offspring do inherit. There's an argument I want to have. Okay? I'll end on this note. I have a bunch of other things to say, but I don't care. I'm going to end on this note. I'm going to choose this stupid hill to die on. They say, do you think that a car evolved? Okay, do you think that a car evolved?
No.
Yeah, no, you're wrong. A car absolutely evolved. In meme space. Do you think that anyone building a car now is not aware of cars that came before and is not influenced?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Cars evolved from other cars. Actually, yeah, when I met the whole Beacon team, it was at this 2012 Evolution conference, and a dude was doing the evolution of iPods.
Yes. Right. I mean, it's if you look at like the development of you can see evolution in both the theist and atheist arguments. If you looked over, because you see that there's transmission between groups, that's horizontal flow of information. It's memes instead of genes, but it's the same thing, and that's cultural inheritance.
Yes.
Right? That's what the whole cultural inheritance is.
It's why you see all these fools out here using Restream trying to be like me.
Right. I 100% agree with every word of what you just said. So, but the thing is that they say you don't see evolution in cars, but you're like, but you do. The car didn't just show up, a Lamborghini, whatever the hell, I don't know models of cars, didn't just show up out of nowhere. There's this whole history. They all kind of like Model T showed up. Once that was there, I don't think anyone ever built a car who was not aware of a Model T or something that followed.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know. I don't know why carriages still exist, because they should have all changed it to Lamborghinis.
Yes.
So no, you can't have that. I mean, you can't have. I mean, you do have a form of natural selection, right? Those memes
100%
that we like persist, but you can't have inheritance in the way that we do. The meme inheritance is very different because meme recombination is very different.
Right.
Right. That's the difference, right? And so you have to redefine a lot of the ways that evolution works, but it is an evolution over time that includes mutation and inheritance.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, but I'm with it because I was like, okay, I see why this is attractive now, because this is one of those meaningful things that they're going to try to say we can't do with our system, and we can. And when we can do it, even though it's trivial to us, right? Because it's like, okay, it's it's very clear, just non-vertical transmission. Everybody's kind of aware of this, but it's almost like that's not the point. Even it's like, I will say this about the papers I've been reading, trying to do the lit review for shape mating, is most of them, the overall flow is not. I don't know. It's not as precise as I expected. It's much more people say a thing can or can't happen. We have the system. Here's how our system lays out, and then we observed it. And now here's what that says. And they get away with this shit all the time because they work with birds or fungi or whatever the fuck it is. And I'm like, no, this is exactly how we need to lay out our arguments. But what happens is in the conversations with, within the field and outside of it, it's the fact that you can observe that shit evolve de novo. It's I hate to say it, but we're underselling and undervaluing the Rich Lenski aspect of what we do, right? Like the fact that he evolved citrate in the lab, and it was a great de novo, which really was just the addition of a resource that's outside of the species definition. But our shit, like starting from nothing and then getting this meaningful behavior, whether it's the complexity of the cognition or the behavior, the sexual mating system, or clear cultural transmission that starts from nothing, comparing it to when you don't have it. I mean, that's the meaningful thing. That's the magic. It's realizing, and I think I realized that we kind of undersell that to ourselves because we just do it every day. It's just how it works, and we kind of forget that it's magical.
I mean, I don't think I do. I mean, I think I'm in touch with what we're doing and the significance of it. And I think for me, a little bit of it is the frustration in, I think there was some of the chat was bringing it up yesterday that was heartening for me, at least because people were seeing it. But it was like, there were points where I'm talking to this guy and he's like saying, sure, but show me the evidence. And I'm like, I do. It's what I do. Like, he's like, why do you believe this?
Absolutely.
And it's like, because I do it.
Yes, that was. I thought that was also one of the most powerful things. It's so stupid. I think he was rejecting everything you're saying. I'm not sure slides or stuff would have helped, but
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's really weird, but I do think that was instructive because it brings out a different level of cognitive dissonance than happens when that dude's just talking to some random atheist. Because some random atheist isn't going to say it's what he does for a living. He's going to say, well, don't you listen to the experts and don't you listen to these people over here? Right. The creationist is going to say the same shit, and it's going to look like a stalemate even though it's not.
Right.
Do you think he thought he won that debate?
Because then it's he said, she said. And in this case, it's he said, she researched.
Right. Exactly. Do you think he thought he won the debate?
I think he did. I think that he thought that he made a solid case that there's no way that level of complexity could ever arrive
naturally
by random fluctuations, because they're going to keep going back to that, right? They're going to say, oh, your claim is that random stuff happens, and then at the end of the day you get something, and it's like that's not what we're saying.
Absolutely. All right, Cliff, thanks so much, man. I know it's been a longer one, but I really do appreciate your time. This was super fun, and we definitely enjoyed that. And I got a lot going on right now because I got to get ready for that conference this weekend. And then I'm also, like I said, I'm working on the NSF grant. But I'm gonna keep working on our lit review and stuff. I'm super. I want to get that shape mating paper out like the Dickens. I'm excited about that. And
to YouTube Punk, I did give it a watch. It's pretty cool. I have to watch it in more detail, but I gave it a look and it's pretty cool.
Oh, sweet. Glad you got in touch with him. What was I going to ask you? You got Wednesday. What's your A-Life situation looking like?
We have nice data, and we're writing, and it's due on the 13th. So maybe we meet next Wednesday again.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll do that for the next couple weeks here until you're on the other side of that as well. All right.
Okay. If you want to set up a debate on that kind of a topic, go ahead. I mean, I
actually think it could become a real niche because
you're a pretty loose gun. You scare me.
Oh, you're scared of what might happen if we're on the team together. You don't want to be held accountable.
You're like, whoa. No, don't go there. I'm gonna keep this civil.
I'll try to be on my best behavior. But yeah, I'll see what's up. See, the thing that gets me is sometimes I feel like people are ducking me. Like Sal Cardova's talked a bunch of stuff about debating me, and James made it sound like he wanted to have me debate Sal, but then I reached out to him and he hasn't gotten back to me. So, but yeah, we'll see. There's always stuff coming up, and I think there'll be more after I do some of these conferences and stuff. And also, there may be something to do with this course with Derek. But thanks so much, Cliff. I'll see you next week, man.
All right, you have a good one.
All right, you too, but later on. All right, gang, I'm gonna head back to. We are at the beach. We'll probably head over to the office because I definitely need to get some work done. So putting myself in the office space will help. But the office space is integrated. The beach is integrated into the Bundy Ranch now. So come to the Bundy Ranch and follow us. But yeah, just want to remind you guys, I'll be getting ready for this conference, hoping to present on, I believe it's Sunday the 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Mountain Time. The conference is running on Mountain Time, so it's a GGRR academic conference. It's a virtual e-conference hosted by the Global Center for Religious Research. We'll bring together authors, social scientists, historians, philosophers, specialists, and students from all over the world to discuss the subject of atheism. So yeah, I need to get ready for my presentation there, but you can see some of the names. Some of them very familiar to us: Derek Lambert, Derek Bennett, Richard Carrier, David Fitzgerald. So excited to be part of this event. I've also registered for the conference so that I can attend. I will maybe I'll put the link to this in I'll put it in Gather or something. I don't know what my Discord looks like right now. Yeah, I don't want to pull that as my conversation. Wait. All right. So I will see y'all later. Yeah, Maya's not a Carrier fan. Yeah, not everybody is. That's for sure. But yeah, you could say the same about me. But yeah, appreciate you guys so much. The other thing I wanted to announce is that we are switching over to our premium gather so that we can get above our 10-person limit. So if you want to join us for the first month of that, please go ahead and the link is in the subscription. Sign up to Ko-Fi today. And we are going to switch over later on to the premium gather. So I really want to thank you all so much for contributing to that. Please don't forget that there's members only content on Ko-Fi. I'm also going to share the members only content in the members only area of Discord so you can access it from there. I did another stream members only video last night where I started reacting to my mother's church. My mother attended a huge mega church in Centerville, Ohio. I think maybe she just attends it remotely from New Jersey. But yeah, I started actually like reacting to what's going on in their church. So I'm trying to do really like meaningful content for the members only. Also, we've been doing some stuff with Lena. Lena's been visiting churches, the local church near Lena. So Lena and I started doing content about Lena's church notes. So that's been there. That's super cool. I also did a video about what's going on with the future of the Democratic Party. So yeah, we're getting it going, man. Appreciate you all. Sign up for Gather. Join us in Gather. We'll be there throughout the day. Like I said, I've got a bunch of work to do, and then I need to start getting ready for that conference. All right. Looks like maybe Esther's live or something like that, so we'll see what's up. All right, gang, appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Come link up with the gang and Gather in the name of the Darwin, the Dawkins, and the Christopher Hitchens. Appreciate that, Maya. Love you guys so much. Science bless you all. Poof!
Whoa. Yeah. Man, this life insane. Got some money, but I always stay the same. But I never fuck with y'all, you niggas lame. If you making moves, you know it's love with me. Yeah, thought that I would change. See, that negativity is not the way. Seen you niggas try to go and run my place, but it'll never ever lead you to my place. Yeah, thought that I would change. Got some money, but I always stay the same. But I never fuck with y'all, you niggas lame. Yeah. Chasing the billy, if I'm in your city, I gotta get paid for the show. Here for a minute, get litty, sip Henny, then I hop right back on the road. This level is nothing, I can't even focus if it don't do shit for my goals. When niggas was gone, I turned to the mold and got us up out of the hole. Look at them dipping and slide. I got them all alive. You see the smile on my face? The merch is sold out for a while. It ain't a nigga out here in the scene like me that could tell you the truth. Took a few grams, got out the jam, the same man, do what you do. Yeah. Got some money, but I always stay the same. But I never fuck with y'all, you niggas lame. Yeah.
Hey, Black Child, what's up? I'm just calling to let you know that I'm happy and I'm proud of what you're doing. You know I'm always going to be your number one fan. As I always say, you can do it. There's no such thing as can't, because you could. But anyway, I'm just letting you know, when you come out, I want you to play my number one song, Shorty. You know I can't sing like you can, but I'm letting people know how you do. Later, love you. Peace out. Peace out.
I would change. Thought that I would change. Yeah. Thought that I would change.
Airplane mode. Ready for takeoff.
Whoa. Yeah. Man, this life insane. Got some money, but I always stay the same. But I never fuck with y'all, you niggas lame. If you making moves, you know it's love with me. Yeah. Thought that I would change. See, that negativity is not the way. Seen you niggas try to go and run my place, but it'll never ever lead you to my place. Yeah. Change. Got some money, but I always stay the same. But I never fuck with y'all, you niggas lame. Yeah. Chasing the billy, if I'm in your city, I gotta get paid for the show. Here for a minute, get litty, sip Henny, then I hop right back on the road. This level is nothing, I can't even focus if it don't do shit for my goals. When niggas was gone, I turned to the mode and got us up out of the hole. Look at them dipping and slide. I got them all alive. You see the smile on my face? The merch is sold out for a while. It ain't a nigga out here in the scene like me that could tell you the truth. Took a few grams, got out the jam, the same man, do what you do. Yeah. Got some money, but I always stay the same. But I never fuck with y'all, you niggas lame. Yeah.
Hey, Black Child, what's up? I'm just calling to let you know that I'm happy and I'm proud of what you're doing. You know I'm always going to be your number one fan. As I always say, you can do it. There's no such thing as can't, because you could. But anyway, I'm just letting you know, when you come out, I want you to play my number one song, Shorty. You know I can't sing like you can, but I'm letting people know how you do. Later, love you. Peace out.
I would change. Thought that I would change. Yeah. Thought that I would change.
Airplane mode. Ready for takeoff.
Whoa. Yeah. Man, this life insane. Got some money, but I always stay the same. But I never fuck with y'all, you niggas lame. If you making moves, you know it's love with me. Yeah. Thought that I would change. See, that negativity is not the way. Seen you niggas try to go and run my place, but it'll never ever lead you to my place. Yeah. Thought that I would change. Got some money, but I always stay the same. But I never fuck with y'all, you niggas lame. Yeah. Chasing the billy, if I'm in your city, I gotta get paid for the show. Here for a minute, get litty, sip Henny, then I hop right back on the road. This level is nothing, I can't even shit for my goal.